Breaking news about Kawhi Leonard. So apparently Kawhi had a knee procedure during the offseason, and as you can see it says here, he will be limiting to strengthening his knee to start Clippers training camp, meaning he's not ready yet to play. And of course I was reading articles, some of them were saying Kawhi will not play in preseason at all, which makes sense, and he may not even be available to start the regular season. While it's not Kawhi's fault that he keeps getting injured, it couldn't have come at a worse timing, although I guess the worst timing is, when it happens in the playoffs, but the fact that they're opening a brand new arena and they literally let Paul George go in the offseason. And I know there was, a dispute over the amount that the Clippers wanted to give him versus the amount he wanted. That was, what was reported was the issue. And so now you have Kawhi as the face of the franchise. Like, it's not him and Paul George anymore. They're relying on Kawhi. Again, it's not his fault that he gets injured, but for the Clippers, it's like they put all their eggs in one basket, so to speak, on Kawhi moving forward, for now at least. And now, unfortunately, he's hurt again. Maybe it's just time to rebuild. I know, you don't want to rebuild when you open a brand new arena. The first year you have it open, that's not the kind of, atmosphere you want to bring. And they're obviously not going to do that because the season did not even start yet. And they already, made their roster in a way so that they hope that they can compete for a title. I'm not saying that roster is a championship roster. What I'm saying is, they paid players and put players on that roster to help them potentially get there. So, they're not going to break this up before the season starts, especially because there's optimism, that he is, healing and he's going to be, okay at some point. And so best case scenario, he's healthy the rest of the season once he comes back. But I think moving forward, after this season, like I said, I understand it's your opening season at your new arena, but after this season, if they do not make progress, meaning they don't go to the NBA Finals, I guess at this point, I think you have to consider a rebuild. The issue with that is nobody is going to trade for Kawhi at this point, which is the craziest thing to say, because when Kawhi is literally on the court, we saw it last year when he was finally healthy for that stretch. We saw it the year before when, they were playing the Phoenix Suns and Paul George was out. And it was like Kawhi just, beating the Suns one-on-one. Like I always say, obviously he had help. He was not the only one, playing well in that series. I think Zubac, if I remember, had a really good game one against DeAndre Ayton, because DeAndre Ayton was still on the team at the time. And I think Norman Powell had a very, very, good game as well. So, and maybe it was game two that Norman Powell had a good game. But the point is, Kawhi, you watch that series and you're like, whoa, Kawhi can literally win this series without Paul George. That is how good he is when he's out there. He was in, I don't remember if he ended up making an All-NBA team. I forget who was on each team. But he was in contention to make an All-NBA team this season. That's how good he was. But the problem is, he can't stay healthy. And it's to the point where I don't think teams even want to take a risk. Despite how talented he is and how good he is when he's out there, the amount of time that he has been out there, unfortunately, I don't think is enough for a team to want to trade for him. Because it was different when he got traded from the Spurs to the Raptors, because this was kind of his first major injury, if I remember correctly. And there was a whole thing going on, and at that point, he wasn't known as a super, super injury prone player. And it worked out for the Raptors because they got a title out of it. So while they were willing to at that time, since then, it's only been more and more injuries, unfortunately. I just feel like the roster has a few players who are going to be hard to trade, and they have a few players who will be very easy to trade. I think James Harden's contract is going to be very difficult to trade as well, even though he's obviously healthier, than Kawhi comparatively, and he'll be out there and he still can do things on the court. I don't know that teams are going to want to trade for a $35 million contract, although next year will technically be expiring, but still. But you have Norman Powell, who is a very good player. Like, don't sleep on Norman Powell. Every team in the NBA not only would want someone like Norman Powell, but could use someone like him because he just does so many good things on the court. And like I've said before, very underrated player. So you could easily get so much value from him in a trade. Terrence Mann, if you watch this page, you know I'm a fan of Terrence Mann. I'm always hyping him up. And he has a ton of value around the league too. I'm not saying you're going to get like 4 first-round picks for either of those players, but they have a ton of value in the sense that there are multiple teams who would want those players. And so you may get into like a bidding war, or other teams rather, would get into a semi-bidding war for those players, and you end up getting more than what you would have gotten in normal circumstances. It's just really unfortunate that Kawhi, can't stay healthy, because we'll never know what this team could have accomplished. Because we all knew, talent-wise, Kawhi and Paul George, talking a few years prior, when it was fairly new, that combo was crazy. Because we all knew what Kawhi could do and what he was. We saw him on the Spurs, we saw him on the Raptors. So we knew what Kawhi could do. And we know what Paul George can do, talent-wise and all that stuff. And Steve Ballmer was always willing to spend and to put the best possible, team that he could around those two. That's how you got someone like a Norman Powell. You got Zubac in a trade, which was still a crazy trade for the Lakers. I have no idea why they traded him at that point. I'm trying to remember why. I feel like, did they trade him for Mozgov? Am I crazy? Was it that long ago, or did I make that up? Or was Mozgov before that? I can't even remember. Or was it Brook Lopez? No, Brook Lopez must have been way before that. I'm getting the timelines confused. I feel like he was traded for, was it DeAndre Jordan? No, was it DeAndre Jordan? DeAndre Jordan was on the Clippers. I don't know. I don't think I got any of that right. The Lakers have just gone through so many centers, I can't even remember which one was traded for which one. But at the end of the day, we hope Kawhi can be healthy. I still don't think this roster can win a title as is. I feel like they need another player, especially if Kawhi is going to be, managing his knee throughout the season. It's going to be tough. So let me know in the comments down below. Do you think that the Clippers should start rebuilding? I'm sure a lot of people are going to say yes, because I think that's kind of the consensus at this point. But I feel like the writing is on the wall. And if something spectacular doesn't happen this season, you can't just keep moving forward with the same roster. Something has to change.